Good morning, all of you. I welcome you all to Ansarkari. So today we are going to discuss the newspaper for 27th of December. So the first article is talking about basically what our PM has to say on our history. So he says that concocted history, it led to a sense of inferiority, and a nation like India with such a glorious history must be full of self-confidence and self-respect. And New India is correcting the mistakes of the bygone decades by restoring its legacy. So we see that Prime Minister, he was addressing the celebrations of the first Veer Bal Divas that we are going to celebrate every 26th of December. And Veer Bal Divas is going to commemorate the martyrdom of the sons of Guru Gobind Singh, that is Shahibzadas Baba Zorawar Singh and Baba Fateh Singh. So he said that we need to get free from the narrow interpretation of the past, that is to history, to move forward. And that is why the country has taken the pledge of removing all the traces of slave mentality in the Azadi Ka Amrit Kal. And when we talk about our core values of a nation, they go through a transformation. So we see that the future of the nation changes with time, and values of a nation can be preserved only when the present generations they have clarity about the history of the land. So talking about important personalities when you talk about Indian history and their different and diverse experiences, which becomes important for us. Obviously, it becomes important from the perspective of the learnings that we get to know from their experiences. So we believe in the ideals of Lord Ram, find inspiration from Gautam Buddha and Lord Mahavir, and make an attempt to live through the sayings of Guru Nanak Dev while also studying the ways of Maharana Pratap and Chhatrapati Veer Shivaji. So these becomes important personalities, and you can find out more about their experiences and their lives. Then coming to online gaming, animation, and VFX. So again, a task force, it says that we need to focus upon Create in India. So Create in India campaign is going to have focus upon creating exclusive content creation, having an international platform for animation, visual effects, gaming, and comics, having national and regional centers of excellence, then leveraging the national education policy to develop creative thinking at school level. Then it also proposed a national AVGC extended reality mission. So AVGC means animation, visual effects, gaming, and comics. And you should be knowing about that all this would be coming under the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. Then our president inaugurates Prasad project, that is pilgrimage rejuvenation and spiritual heritage augmentation drive in the pilgrim town of Sri Salem in Andhra Pradesh. So the hill town will be getting a lot of facilities, a pilgrim complex, amenity centers at Hadkeshwaram and Sikreswaram. So we'll be getting different facilities, an amphitheater, sound and light show, digital interventions, parking areas. So that would all be constructed under the Prasad project in Andhra Pradesh in the pilgrim town of Sri Salem. Then coming to the editorial page, we'll be looking so basically, this article is focusing upon India's maritime security, and we'll be looking this in the context of the recently commissioned INS Vikrant, which is basically we commissioned it in September this year, and Indian Navy it puts on hold its plans to build a second indigenous aircraft carrier that is going to be larger than INS Vikrant. And now we are considering the option of a repeat order again for, we can say, a second INS Vikrant. And that is the development. In this background, in this context, we are going to discuss it. We're going to discuss the technicalities, the features of INS Vikrant. So when we talk about classification of the aircraft carriers, the first basis is going to be categorizing them on the basis of their size. So aircraft carriers, they can be classified as light, medium, and large, or super carriers. So the light carriers, they can carry up to 25 aircrafts. Mediums, they can A medium size, they can carry up to 30 to 50 aircrafts, and large ones, they can carry up to 90 aircraft. Now, categorizing them on the basis of their role, so they can be categorized as fleet for escort, air defense, amphibious assault, and anti-submarine warfare helicopter carriers. And the third basis is going to be on the basis of the methodology used to launch and recover the aircraft. So they can be categorized as catapult assisted takeoff, but arrested recovery, which is also called as catobar in short. Then we have short takeoff but arrested recovery, that is stobar, and vertical or short takeoff and landing carriers. So these are the three bases on the basis of which we can classify the aircraft carriers. And talking about the technicalities of INS Vikrant, so they are similar in size, classification, role, and capabilities to that of INS Vikramaditya, which is a Russian-built aircraft carrier, and it has the capacity of 45,000 tons. It is medium-sized Stobar type aircraft carrier, which is capable of both fleet, air defense, and land attack, carrying up to 30 aircraft and helicopters. So INS Vikrant also has similar features. And commissioning of INS Vikrant, it demonstrated India's capability to design and build the largest and the most complex of warships, which is a capability held only by few countries in the world. And this has been built with indigenous steel developed by DRDO. And the expertise that we have gained from the design and the construction of INS Vikrant will also enable faster development for the upcoming aircraft carriers in India. And talking about the threat from China, we can say that as a major emerging global power with an inimical China at its doorstep, India can ill afford to fall behind in its sea control and maritime deterrence capability, exemplified by an aircraft carrier-centric navy. While aircraft carriers, they are designed for arrested recovery of the aircraft, India should not allow the development of its aircraft carrier program itself to be arrested. So that is what the author is trying to portray. Okay, so looking at the findings of the Smuggling in India Report 2021-22, which has been published by the Directorate of Revenue Intelligence. So firstly, in this picture, you are seeing star tortoises, so you need to find out more about them. And looking at these different graphs and the data that you're seeing in front of you. So first graph, the bar diagram is talking about the gold seizures. So we see that 37% of gold is being seized from Myanmar. So through this data, obviously we'll be knowing about where is the problem, where is the source of the problem, and what steps are need to be taken in order to tackle those problems. So when we talk about gold seized, so 37% of the cases were reported or they were coming from the Myanmar border. Then talking about the foreign currency seized, so 75% of the currency that was seized was in dollars, 22% was in UAE dirham. And the cigarette seizures, so it includes 47% of the cigarettes were seized, they were coming from Myanmar, 22% from UAE, and 31% from the unknown sources. And talking about narcotics, so we see that we see basically that the maximum of the cases, they were coming up from sea route. When we compare air route and sea route, so maximum of, we can say, the narcotics and drugs, they are smuggled through the sea route. And talking about which of, like, all of them, out of all, which constitutes the maximum proportion, we find that heroin followed by cocaine, and then we have pseudoephedrine. So these are the drugs that are, we can say, seized most of the times. And talking about the environment crimes, so elephant tusks and ivory objects from the elephant tusks, they are, you can say, the largest constituents when it comes to the environment crimes. So you can see that 716 crore rupees worth of elephant tusks, they have been seized and intercepted. Then you look at the value of the red sanders, we see the value stands at 97 crore rupees. Then we have ambergris, that stands at 22 crore rupees. So this is about the environment crimes, and I hope you have got something different to understand from the obviously you will be getting a clear picture when you look at the data, and if the question is something related to this, so you can even draw graphs in your answers. Then India's agriculture and allied commodities export, they have grown by 12%. And when we talk about the commodities that constitutes the export specifically from the agriculture and the allied sector, it is constituted by wheat, basmati, cotton, castor oil, and fresh fruits. So these are the major commodities exported from India, and agricultural exports and the allied commodities, they are witnessing an increase. So talking about the recent report on the Capitol attack that happened in USA on January 6th this year. So the report says that the former President Donald Trump, he purposefully disseminated the false allegations of fraud related to the 2020 presidential election, alleging the race was stolen from him. So these false claims provoked his supporters to violence on January 6th. So this is basically, we are just discussing, we're not like going into details of it, but you should be aware about this. So that's why we had a small talk and talking about what is the Delhi High Court's verdict on the Ruabza trademark. So here we are talking about trademarks. So firstly, we'll look at what is the Delhi High Court's verdict in this case. So this case of Hamdard's National Foundation, which basically manufactures and produces ruabzas, which is a drink which obviously we use during summers, and it was versus the Southern Laboratories Private Limited. So the court restrained the Southern Laboratories from manufacturing and selling the beverages under the impugned trademark Dilavza. So you can see the name is similar to Ruabza. So the High Court has said that basically it has prevented the Southern Laboratories from manufacturing Dilavza, and the court observed that a trademark Ruabza is prima facie, it is a strong mark, it is a strong trademark which requires a high degree of protection as it has acquired immense goodwill. So what is a trademark? So trademark is a distinctive sign or indicator which is used by a business organization to distinguish its products or services from those of the other entities. So basically, we can say it becomes a kind of a mark for a business when you start identifying a business with a certain, we can see certain name or a certain product that is manufactured by it. We call it as its trademark. So it serves as a badge of origin, exclusively identifying a particular business as a source of goods or services. And what is a strong trademark? So a mark is said to be strong when it is well known and it has acquired a high degree of goodwill, and the degree of the protection of any trademark changes with the strength of the mark. So the stronger the mark is, the higher the requirement to protect it. And that has been the verdict of the Delhi High Court as well, that the trademark Ruabza requires a high degree of protection because the amount of goodwill that it has earned and attracted from the people and the consumers. Then we talk about the SEED scheme. Basically, it stands for Scheme for Economic Empowerment of the Denotified Tribes. So, Parliamentary Panel on Social Justice and Empowerment, it has pulled up the union government over the very slow process to categorize over 260 denotified nomadic and semi-nomadic tribes under the SC/ST OBC list. So the process is going very slow, and that's why obviously it would lead to delayed distribution of the benefits to the denotified tribes. And the scheme was launched by the Union Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment with the aim of providing free competitive exam coaching, health insurance, housing assistance, and livelihood initiatives to the tribal people. In talking about what has been India's position when it comes to Russia-Ukraine war, we see that India's position at the UN, it has been to abstain on all the resolutions which are critical of Russia's actions, and the government is repeatedly called for dialogue and diplomacy to end the conflict. And India has also dispatched 11 consignments of approximately 97.5 tons of humanitarian aid to Ukraine and the neighboring countries. And at the same time, India is also getting discounted crude oil from Russia. Then we're talking about the NGOs using over depiction of the vulnerable children for fundraising. So the practice of the civil society organizations using representative visuals for fundraising activities concerning the development issues such as malnutrition now faces new scrutiny, with the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights issuing a directive to such NGOs not to depict vulnerable children in their campaigns so as to attract more funds. And basically, this also violates the Juvenile Justice Act of 2015. And also, there was another letter that was issued by the Ministry of Women and Child Development, which said that the campaign to tackle the malnutrition in the tribal children, and which led to raising rupees 800 from the general public. Basically, the campaign was being undertaken by the NGO, which is named Save the Children, and the letter, it is called it misleading on the ground that the issue of malnutrition, it was being vigorously pursued by the government of India through several programs like Saksham Anganwadi and Poshan 2.0 scheme. And also when it comes to using such, we can say, depictions of vulnerable children, we should follow the UNICEF's 8 quick steps to ethical imagery. And also, when we talk about India's performance in the Global Hunger Index, so India repeatedly rejects the data and the rank that has been allotted to India. And India obviously questions the methodology that is being used to calculate the Global Hunger Index. And talking about 2022's index, so India was ranked 107 among 121 countries. Then talking about the news from the business page. So firstly, we see that interest of the investors in government securities in the market is rising. So the trading volume in government securities, it hits a 2-year high of rupees 27.67 lakh crore rupees in the second quarter of this financial year, and the ministry terms this a sign of growing market interest in such bonds. So basically, government security and government bonds, they are considered a safer option for the investors. And given the economic uncertainties right now, so people are now, we can say, shifting more towards investing in the government securities. And looking at another thing, that is Indian workers, they demand more flexibility in their working lives. So they're even, ready to go ahead with gaining the flexibility in their working lives at a certain cost also. So in India, according to a survey, we see that 76% workers, they would take a pay cut to guarantee the flexibility of working remotely or to have the scope to alternate between home and office. So even we look at the figure is huge, like 76% of the workers, of the people, they are ready to accept even a pay cut to get this flexibility of work. And taking one news article from the Financial Express. So here we are talking about the cost overruns in the government projects. So the large government projects, they face cost overrun to the tune of rupees 4.5 trillion. And looking at this, the graphs and the data that is there, we see that sharp increase in the number of large government projects, they are witnessing delays. So you can see that this line, the line and the graph, it is moving upwards. So the share is increasing, specifically when we talk about the large government projects. And in this pie chart also, you can see that 65% of the delayed projects, they are witnessing more than 2 years of time overrun. And you can see this green portion, which is showing that 363 projects have been delayed by 25 to 60 months. That is huge. And in this graph, you can see that the cost overrun is at elevated levels. So you can see that earlier, the graph was falling, and again, it has regained its higher position in November 2022. So that's all for today. Thank you for joining in Sarkari. I hope you have learned something new and also you've enjoyed this session, and you'll get the PDF link in the description box. Also, do not forget to subscribe to this channel, hit the like button and share the video as much as possible. Thank you so much.